Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back into the Buster Show. On today's episode, we're all very lucky because we're joined by one of my good friends and a legend, someone who is joining us on a very joyous occasion. A, because it's May the 4th and everybody's happy on that day, but also because the company that you, Darren, works for and with just sold. Congratulations, sir, and welcome to the show.
Thanks. I think for some people, when a company that they go to and they have equity in sells, it's validation. It's not validation for me. Even though I left ESPN and with 8 months left on my contract to go to the Action Network, I never doubted where it was going. So it's funny when I have friends who have companies, that sell, they're like, finally people, you know, this is validation that I made the right move. It's not that. It's a pretty proud moment. The company that I work for, the Action Network, sports gambling media company, sold to Better Collective, which is a Denmark-based data company, sports betting data company. So not only did we sell, we sold to the right buyer, I believe. So it's a good day.
Well, that's awesome. And I feel like at your stage too, you're too experienced. And, correct me if I'm wrong, but after a certain point, once you've done enough and you already have enough validation, validation does nothing for
That's
you, like
correct. Doesn't
money after
matter.
a certain point.
It's like when you tweet something out and people don't like it or say it's not right, you don't care. You believe what you are writing or thinking, and you are not defined by what other people think. um so yeah, you're right. At some point, it's you don't need that.
I feel like an update on like ancient philosophy of how you don't judge yourself by what other people think of you is an updated version of that would be you don't judge yourself based on the how the algorithm decides to approve and not approve what you post.
It is true. It is true. I was on another podcast, and I basically said, um you cannot live your life based on what people think. And as a father of three kids, and my daughter saying, oh my God, look at your likes and look at your followers, it does concern me.
Yeah.
To that kids grow up to be judged based on how people think, how their friends think, whether it's liked, whether they get enough likes, whether the comments are there. Like, I don't know if I was built this way. I certainly give credit to my parents, but when my wife is so confused about my childhood, she's like, "Wait, you went to a sports sleepaway camp with intense sports, and you basically sucked at sports, but you didn't realize it because you were so into the sports and into the field and into all the things that make sport. Who are you?" Right? So I feel like I grew up to be in the position I am, to say things and not care what you think of them, but I
Yeah.
do worry about my kid. I know that's a tangent, but I do worry about my kids in the day and age of social media.
No, that's so funny though.
Yeah.
Being built for it. I love that. So how now you obviously decided to leave ESPN. We were talking yesterday. I said that it must be so much more gratifying to be working with a company that you actually have some stake in, whereas something like ESPN owned by Disney, it's a, you know, billion
Monolith.
it's a monster and it's existed forever.
And by the way,
So
that's part of the problem. Like, I don't I thank I'm thankful for ESPN. I had two stints with them. But I couldn't believe I'd never been at a startup, right? I worked for 6 years for ESPN, then 6 years at CNBC, then another 6 years at ESPN, and then I came to the Action Network, and I could not believe how much got done when there were only when the organizational tree was like, all I had was two up above me. And there's a book by a guy named Patrick Lencion called Death by Meeting. And I really believe that meetings kill people in organizations. You meet to meet, and you meet to prove who could talk the best. And then there's no guarantee of any doing. And the meetings we had at ESPN, the meetings, the emails that circled around and circled, and it would take 6 months even to start to get anything done. I come to the Action Network and I say the first 2 days I fly out to San Francisco. That's where our product team is. Go to San Francisco. I think we should have something where you could monitor your live wallet. As you're betting, you could monitor what your wallet looks like. 6 days later, we have a prototype, and a month later, it's in the app. Like, coming from before ESPN, the speed, it's like the Flintstones compared to that. So yes, the not only having a stake, but going from a bureaucracy that and all big organizations are like this. This is why startups and entrepreneurships are so exciting, because they do have advantages against the big money and the big amount of people.
Totally. And it's so much more fun too. And for, days like these, you're incentivized on the overall company success in a way that Disney can't give it to you, no matter who you are.
I would also say, yes. So I was responsible, now that I had equity, now that I had a bigger job, I was more responsible for knowing at all times what the greater company mission was, what the financials were. We did a pivot, for example, in COVID. And as more states got legalized, our revenue stream changed, which I needed to acknowledge that and realize how I need to push, and how the whole funnel is working and changing. And, so I never cared as much about the organization besides where I fit, when I was at ESPN and CNBC, and when the Action Network, where I'm at on the hierarchy and where I'm at, from an equity standpoint. I always had to, figure out where our money was coming from and how I could use my power to, do the best.
Totally. And you bring up a great point too, that meetings for the sake of meetings, phone calls for the sake of phone calls, even emails, just to prove that you emailed somebody, is the craziest concept that everybody has approved of.
And I would say that, then there are all these disguises. They're like, it's not email, it's Slack. No, 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 no. Slack is a second email. Okay. So don't relabel something and tell me, right? Like, so, hey, you got to get on Slack. I'm like, man. Oh, what amazing. One of the first times I realized I was an old man is when someone said to me, you got to get superhuman. It helps your email. It helps the efficiency of your emails. And then I realized I couldn't read my emails anymore because of the way that it was sorted and the way that efficiency actually was less efficient, so yeah, I mean, organizations, if everyone was, if every executive had faith in everyone they hired and they were able to do exactly what they were tasked to do, organizations would be better, thank God. So I didn't make that much. I think on the outside, people are like, wow, this is a big leap. He's going from ESPN to the Action Network. Sports gambling was already legalized for 5 months. Chad Millman, the guy who brought me over, who was the head of content, who was the editor-in-chief of ESPN, left ESPN a year before it was legalized. I would have never made the leap to the Action Network before sports betting was legalized. 2017, if you go back, it was not a slam dunk that sports betting was going to get legalized, that the Supreme Court would overturn the Professional Amateur Sports Protection Act of 1992. That there was, I would say it was about a 25% chance. Yet Chad left ESPN to go to the Action Network. I didn't take as much of a risk. I had already seen 5 months of New Jersey, figuring, oh my God, if New Jersey did 100 million or it was 650 in the first 5 months or something, God, I can imagine how crazy this is going to be. So yeah, thank God the people around me were bigger pioneers and promised everything. It's hard to be in an organization. It's hard. And a lot of it, what I've learned, more than ever from this, as well as my entrepreneurial efforts and my investments, is that people make up 95% of whether you're going to make it or not. The product has to be good, but if you have a great people manager, a great visionary, then you have a much better chance. And I think it's crazy because I think people downgrade that. Like, oh my God, this product is so good, but it's like, well, how come there's a reason why there's serial entrepreneurs. There's a reason why Mike Rapoli takes vitamin water to $4.1 billion, sells it to Coke, and then starts from zero again, and now has Body Armor up to $4 billion.
I didn't know that. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, same guy.
I only knew about his Body Armor, obviously.
He did that. He's done that before. By the way, not only is he a visionary and a people person, he brings the same people to every company he goes into. So he goes, then he shifts to Pirates Booty, and then all those same people come in, and then all those same people. He's known these people forever. That's his secret sauce, right?
The quality of relationships there
for
is big.
For sure.
That's a pretty remarkable story. And it is true, and you and I are both lovers of the great organizational leaders of all time, from both, a history standpoint and a memorabilia standpoint. Obviously, when you look at guys like Jobs and Gates and Bezos and Musk, how do you even personally sort of interconsciously rank those all-time A-listers, or do you even try?
See, like, Musk is in a place of his own. That doesn't mean he's at the top. Musk is, I think, the first true CEO of the social generation. He understands that when he says something, types something, he understands there's a reaction, and many times has calculated the reaction before he puts it out. Maybe with the exception of when he talked about Tesla stock and, got nailed by the SEC. I think sometimes he gets too, but that's what's so intriguing about Musk. From a collecting standpoint, by the way, on Musk, I still haven't bought anything because he's so wishy-washy that even though he has the money he has, like, I could spend $7,000 on a Musk autograph, and then like the next day he could announce a signing for 3,000 people just because he wants to just do it. So that's, from a collecting standpoint, that's interesting. I know Jobs and Bezos and Gates aren't doing anything like that. So but yeah, and Bezos is a complete, I think, complete genius in his own way. None of us saw what he was doing, really. And then and he had that vision the whole time. Gates, I think, is probably the greatest businessman pivot of all time. What he has done, like, he will be known more as a philanthropist, as a seeker of, like, with vaccines and stuff, a seeker of best practices, and using his money to help. So that's kind of interesting for me. I'm actually interested in how Buffett will be read, right? Because
Totally.
He will be seen as like a great investor, but I think every day there seem to be more and more critics. And it's interesting, especially the crypto community, how with Buffett and Munger not being part of that and then dismissing it, whether there is a legit, as you know, I dismiss a lot of crypto commentary, but there is a legit notion that these guys, one, haven't been in on it and don't understand it. So easily dismissing it is the easiest thing for them to do.
I think that's true for most people, right? It's a lot easier, to dismiss something that you have no ownership, relevancy, or involvement in than acknowledge a mistake. Because frankly,
although I will tell you, Buffett's pretty good at mea culpas. He is pretty good at saying we messed up, we shouldn't have sold that. Like, I've actually been impressed over time, especially when I was at CNBC, about him like falling on the sword when he feels like he made a mistake.
That's great. But do you
Buffett,
think this is
quick
yeah,
note, Buffett is the reason why Coca-Cola didn't buy Gatorade and Pepsi did, which is a major mistake. Buffett, obviously a top shareholder on the board, thought that in 1990 that Gatorade didn't have much more future. And, since then, sports drinks are worth $5-6 billion more a year in the US. So missed that one too.
that's so crazy. But do you think that for this, crypto is so different than normal stocks and, US based companies that might be why, or it's just a
I mean,
matter of time?
listen, from an emotional standpoint, from a technical standpoint, it is so different in terms of like the volatility,
Right. It's
right?
ridiculous.
Every day it has the volatility of a company that is reporting massive information. Yet the information on crypto is infinitesimal. So I think not understanding, other than the big ideas of, oh, ETH, you got layering and payment system. That's dual versus Bitcoin, which is payment system. Like, but why did it just go up $800? Like, it's not like if something goes up 25% on the stock market, okay, it's because there's major material information that has changed. That's not like people are uncomfortable because that didn't happen with ETH. So listen, I don't know because I've studied a lot on crypto and I still don't know where I am. I've been, day trading this stuff.
Hey, you've
But
done well. You've done
yeah, I've done
well.
well. I've done well because I think it's easier to read momentum swings than versus companies. And I think there's not as many outside factors. Um, but man, is it volatile. It is crazy.
You need to have what they say diamond hands.
I worry about that. And I do, just like I worry about the kids and the cards, I worry about the kids and the crypto. I think it's very addictive. I think in some places people are replacing it with gambling. And I just want to say the same thing that I said when we talked about cards, which is if it's too obvious, question it.
Totally. That's definitely become very true. Even since we recorded that Talking Shop episode together, the modern basketball card market of non-exclusive, non-super limited stuff has gone down.
Plummeted. And I told you that, not like that was a big idea. It seemed obvious.
Totally. Now, when you're evaluating companies to get involved in, invest in, look at, become an advisor for, what are the key things that you're looking at beyond obviously who the leader is, who's the head of the company,
Right.
relationships pulling you in? What are the other things that you're
So
looking
I
at?
I always start with product, and I always start with why isn't it obvious, right? So I just told you if something's obvious, then you should be. I always want to be a contrarian, and I always want to be ahead. So if I'm investing something, ideally I want to be 2 to 4 years ahead on something. So basically, I've chosen to be in food and beverage investing because I believe that I've always loved the supermarket. My wife yells at me, "We've been in here for 2 hours. What are you doing?" I'm tasting, I'm looking at packages, I'm looking at new product. Always loved the supermarket. And, so I feel like I can win because I can look in front of my eyes and I can see in the supermarket kind of what's happening in general. You can't do that in tech. You don't know what someone's doing in their basement. And to me, that makes me uncomfortable and thinks that I can't win as much. So I'll give you a kind of a deep dive into my process. When we made my first investment, the VC I own is Tastemaker Capital, and it's a SPV. So basically, it's a special purpose vehicle. Each of our investments are invested in by people, but they can invest in one of the investments. They can invest in three of the investments. It's not a fund. It's very flexible. I did that on purpose, because I wanted us to be flexible and I wanted our flexibility to be an asset to a company coming in. So the idea when I started this 3 years ago, I said, all right, we're going to invest between $750,000 and $2.5 million in companies that have revenues of 3 to 12 million, try to own 10 to 15% of them. The first process that I did is, okay, so I'm like, what is obvious? Hummus is a $5 billion market. We are eating more and more protein. The person in Kansas now knows what a chickpea is because of hummus. People want to eat snacks that are not straight up carbs. The roasted chickpea market is a $20 million market. 5 billion, 20 million. Put that all together. Let me invest in the biggest roasted chickpea snack company in the country. That's what we did. We invested in Vienna. So that's kind of the process. Second deal was like amazing because we invested in Athletic Brewing. And this was the most doubting of anything I've put my money in ever.
Really?
Right? Like non-alcoholic beer. What the hell? Why would you do that? And so, but if you study things, what I looked at was, I loved that people didn't believe in it. I knew that people wanted to drink less. I even knew that people who were within your age range of drinking age,
right,
21 to 31, were less interested in drinking than any generation before them. Weekend warriors on their phone, whatever it is. And then I looked at Ireland and Germany and Spain and saw that 5 to 10% of their countries of beer drinking was non-alcoholic. And I realized it's because there's nothing good. We have O'Doul's. It sucks. So if you could have a good craft non-alcoholic beer, it could be great. And, we invested in the first round of Athletic, and they are rocking and rolling. And I think by the time this sells, we could 100x our investment.
Wow. That's remarkable.
Possibly 50 to 100x. So, but that's all. And I love when people are doubting. And I would say when people are investing, think about what it really takes to win. Like, people didn't understand what it takes to win. Like, people are like, non-alcoholic beer. I'm like, well, right now, 0.2% of America drinks non-alcoholic beer regularly. So that's 2 people out of a party of 1,000. How many people at that party of 1,000 do you think I need to get to exclusively drink non-alcoholic beer for me to be a winner? And the people would throw out a number like, I don't know, 100. And I'm like, 100? Right now, there's 2 out of 1,000. If I move that number to 10, I make a ton of money, right? So like, when people are investing and thinking about investing, realize what it takes to win, and try to go against the grain. So yeah, no, I love doing investing. As far as advising, it's like, how can I really make a difference? I felt like I've really made a difference in Rally. It's been so fun helping them buy things that I can't afford, using my skills, as to try to find things that are in the wrong auction house, that are not described well enough, that don't have the authenticity, and we can do the authenticity ourselves. And by then, anything that creates a delta or an arbitrage, that's what I love to do. I'm also an advisor for the Players Trunk, which is a bunch of former student athlete managers who decided to sell athletes gear, and the revenue that they've brought in is beyond my wildest dreams. For years, these schools have had equipment sales, and it's never been in control of the athletes. And they give them the opportunity to sell their stuff, and it's been amazing. So yeah,
cool.
You do advising too. I mean, it's not just, both of us don't have time to just accept deals for money,
right?
Because it's just, if there's nothing that you're giving back or adding, then it's just not worth your time.
Totally. And there's speaking of Buffett, I think he said something great. I don't know if it was just in their recent annual shareholders meeting or it was in an interview before, but he said money can't buy me time.
Yes.
What's the point of money then?
Yes.
So, and that sort of, if you're at a point, and I'm curious, I put this on LinkedIn a few days ago. I'm curious what your thought on it is. I said that, uh, to my experience so far, money is everything up until when you don't need money to buy normal things, because money to a certain point allows you to buy back your own time, because it allows you to only do exactly what you want to do with the people you want to do, when you want to do it, where you want to do it. But once you have all of that and you have some of the material things that you want, it the level of impact drops off so steep. It's like a roller coaster ride. Do you have similar thoughts on that?
So, I've done more work on myself over the past 3 years than my entire life. Once I hit 40, I really started to, okay, I need a psychologist, therapist person to talk to. I need a really making my head as good as my physical. I think part of what makes me tick is what hurts me, right? Like when I go on vacation, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare because my head is like I've trained myself to have like at least this workplace and life ADD, boom, 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 doing this all over the place, pads of stuff and writing down and strategy and this and that. I
Right.
wake up and every day is a program madness. So you can't tell me that 20 days a year I can possibly slow down. I can't.
Right.
It's like, so then how do I replace that? It is not doable for me to slow down. So I need to slow down. I need to go at the same speed, not doing work. How do I do that? Am I reading a book? Am I doing, so that to me is the greatest challenge right now. How do I give my kids an hour and a half of undevoted time? um
Totally.
Staying in the moment and doing that, and those are my greatest challenges. So I become a coach, a baseball coach, because I can't take out my phone if I'm a baseball coach, which then puts me in the uncomfortable position of people always think they can get me, and then I have to get over the agita of knowing that I'm not taking the phone out of my pocket for an hour and a half. So there's this whole challenge that I feel like I need to do to be the person other than the worker that I am, and
Right.
that's the greatest challenge in my life right now.
I think one of the things I admire most about you is just that you've been able to do exactly what you've wanted for such a long period of time, which I think is super rare.
Every day to me is a joke, right? Every day to me is I love what I do. I love what I do. I love what I
Right.
report on. I love what I create. I love what I buy. I love what I sell. It's now it's been interesting. Like you have to convince people. Luckily, the money has followed what I've wanted to do, right? Like I want to be a sports business reporter, and that happens, and I think fans need to know more about the business of sports. I want to report on the business of food, at ballparks. Well, owners realize that the dirty water dog isn't the the best way to make money anymore. That changes, right? And then I want to report on memorabilia and cards, and the money's there, right? So it's enabled me to everything that I love. I mean, the money's followed. So that's what's been so great and so gratifying, and why, although someone said to me yesterday, I'm surprised you've lasted this long in this business, considering you've been hardcore social media for a decade. Like not many people, were at the beginning of the social media generation, but you started fighting with people in 2010. And the truth is I'm tired, but the fact that I have fun is what keeps me alive. I've never been burnt out.
Well, the difference also is that your content isn't all about you. And that's why it's, there's this
Well, that's
innate
true.
ability.
You're right. You're right. The new social media content for influencers is all about you.
Right.
You
And
know?
that's why it's impossible to last over a long period of time unless you're doing things like a podcast, right? The only influencers that I can think of who have lasted 10 plus years are people whose either A, content doesn't revolve around them, or B, it's talking to people who aren't them.
That's true. I think that's a really interesting, that's true. I mean, because you either run out or people run out of you.
Exactly. Or the alternative happens. I was just talking about this on the show with Dan Porter, who's the founder of Overtime. And we came to the conclusion that if your content is around you, then what you're going for is a dopamine based reaction. So you're going for oohs and ahs and laughs.
Yep.
And like, whoa. But if your content is dopamine driven, then your audience, unless it gets more extreme, your audience gets desensitized to that reaction, to what content you're putting out. So you have to get more and more and more extreme. But the byproduct of getting more extreme is the increased likelihood of A, getting burnt out, or B, getting canceled, because you're getting closer to that line of what's responsible, irresponsible, what's legal, what's illegal, or hurting somebody physically, emotionally.
That's
And
crazy. That's true.
that's
That is
why
true.
I think that it is literally impossible for any model, influencer, YouTuber who is just doing stuff around themselves to stand the test of time like a Darren Rovell or a Joe Rogan or a whomever has, truthfully.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I guess I am the commentator and people are watching me
Yep.
commentate on something else and they are following me for what they know. Like they say, I know what his take's going to be. I know where he's going to go, but it's good that he became the first person to eat a white chocolate whoopie pie. Right. So, so it's not, right. I get that. I get that. That makes a lot of sense. And it's funny how people on Twitter are always like, you always make it about you. I'm like, no, I make it about my opinion of something else or my take on something else. It's not my take on myself. It's not, I usually 95% of the time my camera's flipped around looking at something, not at me.
Right. And I think, the mixture of that also, you being somebody whom A, everybody knows and they know what you look like. You've done, you sent me an interview of you with LeBron like 10 or 5 years ago, whatever, and
13 years ago.
that was 13 years ago.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
I know.
That's crazy. But, things like that. So it's the combination. That's that. But one of the last things I wanted to talk about, you mentioned, the difficulty of being able to like put phones away and things like that. I always looked at it from the standpoint of like everybody who's like you or like myself or enjoys business, is in business, should look at themselves as an A-list rapper in the regard of their time. These guys are so exclusive. I've spent time around a few bigger rappers, and the way that these people move around, they interact with their teams, don't talk to anybody outside of their inner circles is incredible. Nobody can contact Travis Scott. Nobody can get to him. It's like
Yeah,
that.
how do you undo that? That's the problem. How do you,
What do you mean undo it? You
I mean,
don't.
you have to set, no, you're saying you have to set up a thing so that it looks like them. You have to set up a structure like them.
No, you being the baseball coach is you being an A-list rapper.
Oh, yeah. You have to have moments where you can't be reached.
Yeah. That's your A-list rapper moment.
I
You
have
being the baseball coach.
two nights a month where I go to sleep at 8:00. And it feels great. I shut off my phone and then in the morning it's complete and utter chaos. Because people know usually they can get me till 1. Like, my brother thought I was dead, one of these 8:00 nights, But
So
then
funny.
you risk like, oh my God, is something going to happen? Like part of me being me is I'm always available. Right. So you have to get rid of that fear. Otherwise, and as the phone becomes more attached to everyone, it's going to get harder and harder. So
People think that we're addicted already. Oh no, it's about to get
no,
a whole
no,
lot
no, no.
crazier.
When the kids who have been on iPads throughout the pandemic, like my kids, get their phones when they're 10, like there's gonna have to, I mean, it's literally an appendage on these kids' bodies. And I'm concerned.
That's a great. Last question I wanted to ask you: what are you most excited about right now? You got the whole.
Tickets.
You
Tickets. No.
tickets. Tickets. You get a ticket. You get a ticket.
What am I most excited about? Obviously I'm excited about Action Network and where it's going, and the sale. I think that's, that it took a long time to get there. It wasn't the ultimate goal. It was just to be great every day. So I'm excited about sports betting, and as it gets bigger and bigger, continuing to cover it. I am excited about the sports memorabilia world. I have a show on Twitter sponsored by eBay that I actually love doing. I love memorabilia now. So no, I think there's so many things. What am I most excited about? I think every day I'm excited about something else. But in the memorabilia, in the betting space, even in the crypto space, everyone is so hopped up right now. And I just want everyone to make sure, the most important piece of advice I could give you is, someone said to me yesterday, who should I follow if I'm just getting into crypto? And I think most people say, oh, you're going to follow Pomp, and you're going to follow the Winklevoss twins, and you're going to follow, and they list the guy who went from a major hedge fund to just investing in crypto. And the major mistake in that is that you're not following any critic. You're just following the pumpers. And so I would say, please, if you're investing in memorabilia, make sure you're following a contrarian. If you're investing in crypto, make sure you're following someone who doesn't like it, because the pain that person will exert on your feed every day is worth it, versus being in the whole cyclone of love and then being like, how did I not see this? I'm not saying things are going to fail, but I'll say generally in life, if you surround yourself with yes people, the new version of that is if you only follow yes people, or only people in the cult of what your interests are, it's not a good place to be. So suck it up. When you're involved in things, make sure, as we can pick people who we follow and who we don't, make sure you pick the doubters as well.
That is an excellent note to end on. Darren, thank you so much for doing this. Instagram at Darren Rovell, Twitter at Darren Rovell. Find this man online. You won't regret it. Darren, thank you so much for doing this.
Buster, love you, man. Thanks as always.
Boom.